Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. With me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
It's Friday.
Yep, and also joining us is Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork, a.k.a. Heist Dork.
Cool off, slick.
Yep, and I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. And welcome to the It Modcast podcast, Fistful Friday. And in honor of the newly released, as of today, in some markets yesterday, Lucky Logan.
No, Logan Lucky.
Logan Lucky. Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah, the return of Steven Soderbergh. He ain't retired.
His return.
Yep.
We have a fistful of heists. Apparently, Logan Lucky is a heist film.
Yeah.
Or it has heist elements in it.
It's like the Hick version of Ocean's 11.
Oh, there you go. We have a fistful of heists. So we're going to just get this out of the way right now. We all have the same number one, right?
It's Heat.
It's got to be Heat, all right?
Heat's number one.
Look at Brian looking like he doesn't have...
It's on my list, but
Is it number...
I mean, I figured, that's
number one.
obvious.
You can't talk about it. It's obvious. Heat's number one.
But we'll get to it, right? So we just putting that out there?
So we'll
So we just have a 1A. Can we just still do 5 and then just have the...
No, that's no argument. If any heist list...
Well, I mean, of course, that's the first thing I wrote was Heat.
It has to be your number one.
But I still want to do 5.
You can do 5. You do 6, actually.
Okay, so it's
so you're starting with you're number 6.
It's a 6 full. 6 full.
You just have
it's a
deformity.
It's a 6-fingered fistful.
You have a deformity. You have an extra finger. All right. So Brian, you're number 6.
Do I really want to go with this one at 6? I got some good ones on my list.
I can predict them right now.
Go ahead. What you got?
Brad's number 6.
Reservoir Dogs?
No. What? It's on here, but no.
Oh, okay.
What's your number 6?
All right, I'm gonna go Inside Man.
All right.
Oh, dude, that's a movie I don't think about a lot, but it's a good flick.
Yeah, it's a good flick. I haven't seen it in a while. But this was Denzel Washington, Spike Lee, and this was Spike Lee's first big studio movie. This was the film that really probably his most successful movie, probably still to this date his most successful movie. But it stars Denzel Washington, Jodie Foster, Christopher Plummer, Clive Owen, Chiwetel Ejiofor was in this. And I just thought it was a really, really clever film in the way that Spike Lee really kind of constructed this story and the way he kind of played with the timelines and going back and forth between the interrogation of the people inside the bank, with Chiwetel Ejiofor and Denzel Washington interrogating them. Then once you figure out what Clive Owens is actually doing, which I really don't want to give too much away, probably because I haven't seen the movie in a while. I can't really explain it that well, but it was a really clever premise. And again, I think I really, really enjoyed this film just in the way that Spike Lee really constructed this story. It was really unconventional in any way that we really saw a traditional type of heist film, especially when you see the reveal at the end of the movie. And it does play kind of tongue-in-cheek. It doesn't take itself too seriously. You could definitely see that Denzel and Chiwetel are having a lot of fun playing these characters, but there's still stakes involved, and there's still a serious tone to what's happening in this movie as well. But it's just, I just thought it was just a really smart, clever film, and I think I have it on DVD. I might try to actually go back and rewatch that. But Inside Man, yeah, definitely check that out if you have the chance.
I need to revisit that for sure.
Yeah, it's been a while. It came out in 2006, so it's been a while.
All right, Brian, I'm gonna need you to transfer that DVD to Blu-ray, and don't ever say DVD on this podcast again.
I understand.
Brad,
are you standard deffing still? gross.
Brad, you're number 6.
My number 6 is Heist from writer-director David Mamet, starring Gene Hackman and Delroy Lindo, Danny DeVito, Sam Rockwell, Rebecca Pidgeon, Ricky Jay, Patti LuPone. It's an awesome cast. But, the heist itself is a lot of fun. There's at least 2 really great heists in the film. They're both really a ton of fun to watch. But the real highlight of this film is like any David Mamet movie. It's the dialogue. It's this hard-boiled noir attitude brought into contemporary language. And it's super cool. It's cooler than you'll ever be, or possibly could even contemplate to represent. Humans just don't talk or act like they do in David Mamet movies. Kind of like Tarantino in that way, where they are certainly fabricated, crafted individuals, characters that wouldn't stand next to you on the street, but totally belong in cinema, and it's just everything you want in a crime movie. These are the people you want to populate your heist film. Scumbags, but cool scumbags. Everybody's out for themselves. Everybody's got a side story and an ulterior motive that's only going to reveal itself at the end. And hopefully the guy you like the most survives.
Yeah.
And it's it's one of Gene Hackman's final films. It's not Welcome to Mooseport, thankfully, but it belongs right there with the rest of his classic narratives. The French Connection. I think it's a hell of a turn from Hackman, and it doesn't get talked about a lot, even within like David Mamet movies. It's just not a movie that people revisit, and I think that's a shame.
Why do you think that is, though?
Well, I mean, I think, one, it's the time that it came out in. I think in the early aughts, it was certainly overshadowed by flashier projects. It was super small, micro budget. Yeah. And I think, like with David Mamet, there are just movies and plays that he is associated with that are obvious masterpieces, and Heist is very much a movie. Yeah. It's a B film. It is a noir. If you put that next to like Glengarry Glen Ross or The American Friend or something like that.
Yeah. All right. My number 6. Shout out to wife Dork. She's not here. She could not be with us today. But she will be well represented on this particular Fistful, as my number 6 is going to be one of her favorite films, and that is Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels slash Snatch for me. Guy Ritchie's first film, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, is when we had a younger Jason Statham. Mm-hmm. We got Nick Moran, Dexter Fletcher, Jason Fleming, and like Guy Ritchie's films, just a huge cast of really unique characters, cool faces, and outlandish, just these outlandish personalities in a caper that one of my favorite things about, and I'm speaking about both films, both Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch, is that Guy Ritchie has a way of weaving this really complex caper that it seems madcap and aimless, but at the end, in the third act, all of these crazy characters, they end up converging in a way where it feels like, well, this is the logical conclusion to this narrative madness. And Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels came out the gate. It just hit the ground running with this energy. That opening sequence when you had Jason Statham's character Bacon playing the card games on the street and then running from the coppers, and just Guy Ritchie's editing style, like speed ramping and then slowing down, shooting at a high frame rate, along with the narration and just that energy that just kept going. It was sustained throughout the duration of that film. And again, all these quirky characters and these just a bunch of memorable scenes that would just cement Guy Ritchie as a distinctive cinematic voice, and that would just carry over into Snatch, and he would just elevate everything he did in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and somehow manage to put together an even better cast than Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I'm talking about, you bring Jason Statham back, but then you got freaking Brad Pitt, you got Benicio del Toro, you got Lenny Jones, you got Lenny James and Vinny Jones, you got whatever the dude that plays Bricktop, just all these memorable characters.
Yeah, Dennis Farina.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And it just, again, but still you have this story with so many different threads, and you're jumping back and forth in time, and he's managing all of these different storylines, and he brings them together perfectly. And then the way Guy Ritchie shoots his films are so energetic and spectacular. Like, I love watching his films. They have an energy. Brian, you just revisited. You were just talking about King Arthur. And say what you will about that film, but it is, for better or for worse, it's Guy Ritchie.
It's a Guy Ritchie film.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
And I like that about whether I like the director's films or not. Any director who I can say has a distinctive enough voice, so when I see something from them without seeing a title card, without seeing a credit by them, I can tell, oh, that's a Guy Ritchie film. Well, that's a Tarantino film. Again, that's a David Mamet film. Yeah. And so Guy Ritchie is one of those directors that does have a distinctive voice, and these two films solidify that most definitely. So shout out to Wife Dork again at Sidewalk Siren. If she were here joining in on this Fistful, I gotta know Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels would be on there, because there's a heist involving the theft of two guns that belong to someone, and the chaos that ensues when it is revealed that those were mistakenly taken. And great movie. If you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor, check it out, and then watch Snatch. You will be thoroughly entertained. Brian, what's your number 5? Now we start proper.
Okay.
Number 5.
Okay, cool. I could do that.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to go back to the 90s. This was a film I actually just thought of right before we started recording, and I really, really loved this movie. 1999, The Thomas Crown Affair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You used to talk about that movie a lot.
Yeah, I really, really like that movie.
This is a great remake.
It really is
superior to the original.
Really,
I haven't seen the original.
Don't need to.
This was probably John McTiernan's last great gasp before he kind of delved into the rollerball area.
Hey.
Oh, yo guys like rollerball?
No.
Oh, Chris Klein fans? Chris Klein's
LL Cool J.
Street Fighter?
You killed my bird.
Yeah.
I mean, he is awesome in The Legend of Chun Li.
No, he's not, Brad. You're trolling right now. You are high as shit.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we never saw this John McTiernan again. But I love the Thomas Crown Affair, and what I love about it, like this time in cinema, like we didn't really see a lot of movies. This was like a transition period where like Hollywood was going young. Like we want to get all the young stars. And to have characters like Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo, who had established careers in the 80s and the 90s, and middle-aged actors, to be able to kind of carry this film when Hollywood was kind of in that transitional stage. And granted, this was a mid-budget film around that time, but knowing that you can have actors like this in a lead role and they could still bring in the audience. I mean, this movie ended up making about $69 million domestically on like a $48 million budget. So I think this was proving to Hollywood that you can still have actors that, even if you feel like they're past their prime, especially for like female actresses, they like a lot of times they say they have an expiration date. Once they hit a certain age, then it's hard for them to get roles, which is probably true. But
it is true, unfortunately.
But I mean, the fact that Rene Russo and really tell this nice, really romantic love story, this very sexy story between the two of them, and Pierce Brosnan is just as suave and debonair as we've seen him in the James Bond, and this was also in the middle of his James Bond era.
Would you say he's more suave in this than he was in Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah,
he's definitely more suave in this than the Lawnmower Man.
Oh, hey.
But yeah, this was I think he was 2 films into his James Bond run. So this was after GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies, but right before The World Is Not Enough, I think, or right around that time. And so yeah, like he was. I mean, you could really sell him on the whole James Bond aspect, especially with this type of story. But that heist, man, once the reveal, once you see, it's 99, I could spoil it. Like he would steal these paintings, but basically return them immediately and just kind of put the police through this kind of loop-de-loop. And Rene Russo plays this detective that forms this romance with him. And I just love that last sequence with the bowler hats and you hear the Nina Simone song. And it's just such a great, great ending to that movie.
They've tried to use Sinnerman in so many films and TV shows,
but it does not work the way it works in this movie.
Yep.
It works brilliantly, beautifully in this film. I love the Thomas Crown Affair. Great movie.
All right, B, you're number 5.
My number 5 is a film that we have spoken about in length in an old ItMod homework episode. It's like Logan Lucky, a Steven Soderbergh movie. It's Out of Sight.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
It again has 2 really great heist scenes in it. The first heist scene that opens the film, where George Clooney leaves an office building, tears off his tie. He's super frustrated. He walks right back into a life of crime, and into a bank, robs it just with nothing more than his smile. He takes the money back to his car. His car does not turn over, and he's arrested. He's just a complete dope. He's super cool, but a total dope, and heading back to jail after a botched heist, the most pathetic of heists. But I love the final heist where they go to Albert Brooks's mansion and they're on the hunt for his famous diamonds that he's squirreled away somewhere in this building, and how there are 2 factions at play inside that house. There's Don Cheadle's group with White Boy Bob, and there's George Clooney and Ving Rhames in their group, and they're supposedly robbing the place together, but George Clooney, he's working with a different set of ethics than Don Cheadle's villain.
Yeah.
And how those 2 finally meet, bad guy and good bad guy, is a ton of fun. It's, based on an Elmore Leonard novel. Like David Mamet, it has all the appropriate switchbacks of plot, and has heaps of cool dialogue and super suave, stylish performances. And it's slick as all get out.
Yeah. It's a sexy film as well, too.
And, it's an incredibly sexy film. And if you want to know how sexy, you should go back and listen to our ItMod homework episode.
Yeah, it's really good.
Where Lisa got to watch J-Lo and George Clooney for the first time in that trunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, good pick. My number 5 is I'm going back to the 90s as well. It is, I want to say, the second film of the Hughes brothers, Dead Presidents.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Starring Lorenz Tate and Chris Tucker and Nebuchadnezzar Wright. I thought about this one because I just recently saw, if you listen to The Weekend Dork, I checked out Girls Trip, and Lorenz Tate is in that film. He, after Dead Presidents, I believe he was, he went to, I'm trying to Google it to find out what day it was, but he was put into cryostasis, and
he does not age.
He was
at
awakened
all.
right before filming Girls Trip. He literally is. He might be younger in Girls Trip than he was in Dead Presidents.
Dude, that's over 20 years ago.
Yeah, that dude looks like he's maybe 28, 29 in Girls Trip. Anyway, and Lorenz Tate previously worked with the Hughes brothers in their in Menace to Society, which was a terrifying turn as O-Dog. America's Nightmare. And in this film, he and Chris Tucker play African-American war veterans. They serve their country, and when they come home, they struggle with returning back to society to become productive members of society. And Chris Tucker ends up getting strung out, and and Lorenz Tate character, he ends up having again having a hard time trying to reintegrate, and through different circumstances they end up the heist at the center of the film is they hook up with Boucher Wright's character. She's a I want to say she was a Black Panther or a similar group in that way, and so her, Bokeem Woodbine, Freddie Rodriguez, if I think his name is, and Chris Tucker and Keith David is also in. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes.
Money to Burn.
Yeah. Also, Clifton Powell is in it as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Really good cast. So anyway, there's a really intense heist, as an armored car robbery that is at the center of the film, and expertly staged and executed. Danny Elfman's score punctuates that sequence as well as the rest of the film. You got some Al Green in there, and a really strong performance, dramatic performance from Chris Tucker, who was a standout in the film. Mm-hmm. This is coming off of Friday, so Chris Tucker at this point is known for being funny, being goofy. He had done Money Talks at this point as well. So he comes to Dead Presidents, and the Hughes brothers use him to great dramatic effect. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he's been used in that way since. A really good character, Bokeem Woodbine's character. Yeah. And then, it's one of those films that speaks on just the tragedy of what happens to these veterans when they come home and society isn't set up to help them reintegrate. And not saying that makes what they did okay, but it's one of those movies where, there is a discussion there to be had. And so it's a really good film. It's a film that doesn't get spoken about enough, and I think it might be my favorite Hughes brothers film. And I like Menace to Society. I appreciate that film, but for what Dead Presidents is and how different it is from Menace to Society, and what it how they shot that film, and just to see them graduate from Menace to Society and move to a bigger budget, again have Danny Elfman on to score that film and give it a much more robust feel. I really think it for me, I think I enjoy it more than Menace to Society.
Yeah, I think they're still dealing with some of the same themes and social commentary with Menace and Dead Presidents, as far as like the environment and how that affects like you said, these veterans coming home, and with Menace to Society and just living in these areas and stuff like that. So I think they're still dealing with a lot of the same themes. It's crazy though, man. I remember seeing Dead Presidents. I was in high school when it came out. And that movie terrified me. It literally felt like a horror movie. Mm-hmm. Like just watching that film and seeing like, these war veterans come home and have to get to that point where they're robbing banks. And then even at the end when like they get caught and stuff like that, it was just the way the Hughes brothers are able to really just capture that and make you feel the terror and the horror for these characters. Yeah. I just remember watching that. It disturbed me. Yeah. It disturbed me watching.
And going back to Chris Tucker's character in the film, before they go off to war, before they even join the army, he is the goofy. He's the the crazy one in the group. And when they go overseas, and it changes him. So when he comes back, he's not joking all of the time. He's he's an
addict.
Yeah, he becomes an addict, heroin, and he becomes a changed person. Yeah. And to see him with that duality, see Chris Tucker portray that and be convincing, and then put him in that situation, or make the choice to put himself in that situation, was really a really strong and powerful performance. I really dig Dead Presidents. That's something I got to pick up on Blu-ray because for whatever reason I don't have that.
I need to rewatch that.
Yeah. So that's my number 5. B, your number 4.
All right, I've been going back and forth between two films, but I think I've decided. And right. Brad, I'm going to follow in your footsteps. I'm going to follow in the Soderbergh footsteps. You did Out of Sight, so I'm going to go with the 2001 film Ocean's 11, which is kind of more in vein of Logan Lucky, Logan Lucky, which is kind of described as kind of like the the hillbilly version of Ocean's 11.
Described by me just minutes ago.
Yep.
Oh.
Welcome to the podcast, Brian.
Yes.
Now, I'm not the first to say that.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Let's take that out. Anyway, Ocean's 11. I really enjoyed this film. I mean, we saw this. You don't remember. Arundel Mills midnight screening. We used to go to Arundel Mills like every weekend and catch like midnight films. This was back in 2001. It came out, I think, around November, December. And I love this movie, man. It's like the Dirty Dozen of like the Vegas, the Vegas, like you put this team together to do this heist. Yeah. Of course, this is a remake of the Frank Sinatra film.
And it's another remake superior to the original film.
Yeah, again, I haven't seen the original, but I've heard that.
You don't need to.
I've heard that as well. And this is around the time in 2001 where everybody was at like the height of their career. You talk about Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Julia Roberts, Matt Damon, Don Cheadle, Scott Conn. Yeah, was Casey
Affleck's in it. Not the height of his career. On the way up.
Yeah, on the way up. Bernie Mac, rest in peace, man. I miss Bernie Mac so much, but he was really good. But seeing all just a great ensemble cast. Andy Garcia, yeah, as the casino owner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And such a great plan that they put together. I mean, the motivation behind why they do it is a personal reason for George Clooney with his relationship with Julia Roberts. But Carl Reiner was also in it. And I love this cast of characters. Of course, the three pillars of this cast, of course, George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Matt Damon. And I love Brad Pitt, how he's always munching and chewing on something and eating something every time you see him. Yeah, but it's a really fun and good movie that I think the sequels don't really live up to. Even though I like the third one, I like the third one. I like the fact that they go back to Vegas in that movie. The second one is weird.
It's terrible.
It's just really weird to me. I just don't get it, and I'm interested to see what this Ocean's 8. The quote unquote all female version where I think Sandra Bullock plays.
Yeah, that's been filmed too, right?
Yeah, it comes out next summer, in June of next year. So I think she plays Danny Ocean's sister. And it's interesting that they titled it Ocean's 8 because if they do a trilogy, that should lead into 11. So if you do 8, 9, 10. Then that leads to Ocean's 11. I think it's interesting that they chose Ocean's 8. So it'd be cool to see. I'm interested to see how this film plays out.
All right.
Yeah.
Brad, your number 4.
For number 4, going back to 1990 in the co-directed film from Howard Franklin and Bill Murray, Quick Change. I love this movie.
Yeah?
Yeah. Now, the heist itself is relatively simple. Bill Murray walks into a bank. He's, loaded with dynamite. He's dressed as a clown. And he creates this hostage scenario that when the hostages start to slowly get released, he folds himself into the crowd as being one of the hostages. He gets to play a little more Bill Murray makeup on there. And him and Gina Davis and Randy Quaid all escape with the cash. But it is executed perfectly according to plan, but from that point on, the night just goes south. And what I love about Quick Change is how weird and bizarre their descent into madness is as they're trying to escape Manhattan and get to I can't remember if they're trying to get to JFK or they're getting to LaGuardia. Well, either one. There's this moment where they just fled the bank and they come across like two dudes on bicycles jousting one another. And it's just it's like Lynchian in its absurdity. Yeah. And that's what I really respond to in this film. And Bill Murray, he's phenomenal in this movie. And this was a period where, it was post Ghostbusters. It was post Saturday Night Live. Yeah. He kind of languishes for a bit in the 90s before finding, his epic status post Lost in Translation. How many times can I say the word post?
The Postman?
Yeah, the Postman. It's definitely pre-Postman, Bill Murray. But it's a film that, again, doesn't get talked about a lot, but is worthy of the conversation. And I think it's one of his strongest not necessarily like his strongest performance, but strongest characters, on how there's more to his character in this film than you initially think as just like the Bill Murray bank robber.
Yeah. I just remember that cover with the clown on it. Every time I think of Quick Change, I always just think of that cover.
I mean, he makes a great clown.
Yeah.
He should be in It too.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right. My number 4 is not necessarily the film or as a heist film, but a heist that takes place within this film that's about other things. And that would be the opening to Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight.
I had that on my list, yeah.
Just if you take away the reveal of the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, and you look at it just from a heist standpoint, the setup of the heist and the execution of the heist, how, coupled with Wally Pfister's cinematography, how you have this group of people who, even playing into the narrative and giving you character about the Joker and how everyone has their, they've heard different things about the Joker, and then how they begin to execute this plan, and Joker's plan is to pay each of these guys to take out one another, so ultimately he's the last one remaining. And just how that is shot, and then that great moment inside the bank with William Fichtner's character, and building up to the reveal of Heath Ledger's Joker, which, not only would that just be an iconic moment, but what that would signify and introduce the world to this now legendary cinematic character. I think that it's just expertly done. It's just expert filmmaking, and coupled with, not just on a technical level, but also on a narrative level, just how that heist speaks to Joker's ingenuity, and that would just be echoed through the rest of that film. Everything that happened in that heist happens the way that Joker plans it to a T. And all these films on our list, at least the ones on mine, every heist, the one that's in Dead Presidents, that one goes south. The ones in the heist in my number one goes south. Like, all these heists go south, but the one in Dark Knight, that opening, goes off without a hitch.
Quick Change heist without a hitch.
That one.
It's an escape.
That's on mine.
I know.
But yours also features a clown too. So I think it has something to do with a clown. If you want a successful heist, you got to be clowned up. But yeah, like and it would just speak to Joker again. Joker's his brain, and how he sets everything up, and it executes according to plan. Everything that happens in that film in Dark Knight happens because Joker wants it to, except for the people on that ferry at the end of that film. That was something that he did not plan for. But again, a great moment and a great film for the introduction of a great character.
Such an awesome movie. Man, Heath Ledger's so good in that movie.
Yep. Your number 3.
Man. Well, following in your footsteps as well, I will continue the love fest for Christopher Nolan. And we talked about this a bit in one of our Weekend Dorks when Brad was talking about Dunkirk, and we were talking about our favorite Christopher Nolan films.
Oh, you're talking about the heist in which Harry Styles stole your heart?
Actually, you kind of did. Brad. I couldn't deny that twinkle in his eye, that smirk. It's beautiful. But no, this is Inception, my favorite Christopher Nolan film in his filmography. Absolutely love this film, and I think it's just so expertly done. It's a unique concept. The idea of being able to go inside somebody's mind and to steal an idea. That is part of the heist in the beginning, although this is almost like a heist in reverse, where they're trying to plant an idea into somebody's brain, into somebody's mind, so that they can kind of, cause the friction or the collapse of a certain company, to have the son of a company who's going to inherit this company to kind of go his own way. So they're trying to implant this idea. Again, I just think the construct of this film and how Nolan was able to kind of come up with this whole idea of being able to go inside the mind, go inside somebody's dreams, the different levels of a dream, and how that relates to the idea of sleeping that we think of when, you know, you go into like REM sleep and you go into like these different levels of sleep, and how it opens itself up to be able to plant an idea or steal an idea. The deeper you go, you know, have to go a dream within a dream within a dream. These are just very smart and very innovative ideas that I've never seen on screen, and to be able to visualize that, to be able to visualize the dream world, these different types of dreams, it was just something that just amazed me. And to be able to get emotionally invested in Leonardo DiCaprio's character, with the idea of him not being able to go back home and wanting to see his kids. And again, we have a great ensemble cast with Tom Hardy. Not the introduction to Tom Hardy, but I think this is going to be a film that a lot of people, probably the masses, really got introduced to Tom Hardy. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's one of my favorite actors. It has some great scenes with the use of slow motion and the use of like these rotating sets. I absolutely love this film. The score is phenomenal by Hans Zimmer. I mean, we've gotten probably one of the most iconic pieces of music that's been used over and over again. The time theme that was in Inception, that's used in like every highlight video, every montage, end of the year video we see all the time.
Also, boom.
Yeah, we get the ball. Yeah, this was like the introduction to that, which I thought was used great in the trailer for this, but been overly used in every single trailer since then. But this is my favorite film of 2010. I love Inception. I'm probably going to go and rewatch this soon. I love this movie.
All right, B, your number 3.
My number 3, I'm going classic. I'm going with Stanley Kubrick's The Killing, which I believe is his third film, but truly his first masterpiece. It's about Sterling Hayden bringing a gang of individuals together to rob a racetrack. Elisha Cook Jr. is a betting window teller, and he's the entryway to gain access to the money, the boodle. And the plan is that they get Timothy Carey as a sharpshooter to shoot out the favored horse during the race so that they can then distract the crowd and get into the betting room and steal the money. Sterling Hayden is just such an awful, horrible, corrupt individual, but he's so desperate for his cash, and he comes so close to making off with it. You know, that is a heist that does go well, but what I love about The Killing, you know, like so many great noirs, is how it's the little human elements that you cannot anticipate that are going to screw you over. It's, you know, Elisha Cook telling his wife about the robbery that is going to come back to haunt you. It's the fact that you can't find the right size suitcase to haul this money out of the country that's going to truly haunt you. You can plan all these tiny little details, but there's always something that's going to bite you in the ass. And that is absolutely what haunts Sterling Hayden in The Killing.
Yeah.
And you know, he's cool. You know, he's the perfect noir hero. He's cool. He's badass, but he's also just scum. And so you root for him, but you also are kind of happy when things go tits up.
Yeah.
All right, good pick. My number 3. Like Brad, I'm taking a cue from B. It's a film that we've had for an ItMod homework assignment. As a matter of fact, I gave it to Lisa, and it is F. Gary Gray's Set It Off. Like Dead Presidents, I was reminded of the cast of this film because of Girls Trip, which also stars Jada Pinkett Smith and Queen Latifah. They are joined by Vivica Fox and
Elise Neal. Oh no,
not Elise Neal.
Jesus, what was her name? Just think it's like her first film.
IMDb that for me.
Yeah.
So the reason why I picked this film is because, firstly, it features, I want to say 3, if you're not including the initial bank robbery that Vivica A. Fox is a victim of. But for the girls in the film,
Kimberly Elsie.
Yes, Kimberly
Elise. Yeah.
Yes, so
Or
her.
whatever.
When you look at Ocean's 11 and you see the people who are the team that's put together to commit this heist, when I look at Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, when I look at The Town, Inception, like these people who are on these teams, they're planning this heist, you feel like they're the best people for the job. They're meant to be on this team. Like when I'm watching these films, at no point do I feel like, oh no, Tom Hardy, I don't want you to be on this team in this situation. You got to get out of there. But with Set It Off, F. Gary Gray has 4 characters, 4 women who each time they go on one of these heists to rob these banks, like the tension and the drama and the suspense for me comes with the fact that I don't want them in this situation. Like, true. I really do care about these characters, and I feel like, I feel like I'm angry at them because you're making the wrong decisions. Like, I don't want you to be in this situation because I want the best for those characters.
But you understand their motivation.
I do, and that's where emotionally, I go back and forth.
Yeah.
And a lot of the drama comes for me from that, the fact that I understand, but I don't want to see them in that situation.
Yeah.
And when they do escape, I'm not rooting because they're badass or whatever. I'm just glad that they made it out okay and they aren't dead. But at the same time, I know they're just digging themselves deeper and you're just getting in more and more trouble. And so, I'm feeling for these characters and I'm sympathizing for these characters. And F. Gary Gray shoots each of these heists very well. I think this was his film post Friday.
This was his second film.
It was his second film, and the centerpiece heist, not the one that concludes the film where they end up getting caught, but the centerpiece one where they rob the bank and the Queen Latifah plays the getaway driver Cleo, and she's sitting out front of the bank in a Cadillac, and there's a homeless guy causing a ruckus, and a cop a beat cop walks by, and he's trying to get this guy to move along. So the girls are inside robbing the bank, and they can't come out the front door because that cop's right there.
That's right.
So Cleo's like, well, shit, I gotta think quick. And now the girls are inside. They see that cop, and they're like, yo, we're missing our window. There's a cop right there. We're screwed. And Cleo, she commandeers a SUV. And she bursts through the wall in there. She gets the girls, and then they bust out the front door. I've talked about it when we did our homework cast review. Just the way F. Gary Gray shoots that and how he shot that one action sequence was really exhilarating. And to see those girls have that temporary moment of release and success. It's ill-gotten gains, and it's fun to see them happy because they're all coming from these places where these situations and their circumstances have pushed them to the point where they feel like this is their only recourse. That yes, they're happy now and they got this money, but it's gonna unravel and it's gonna go bad for them, and then you just feel. For me, I just feel for those characters, and it ultimately does. But I just think that what F. Gary Gray does as his second outing, coming from a comedy indie film. Friday was not a big budget film. It was just some young guys like hanging out on a porch, getting into some antics in the neighborhood. There was no huge budget needed, no big set pieces, no setups and things like that. To come from that to be handed a decent sized budget to handle a story with some emotional weight with these characters you care about, and also feature some action set pieces. I think he did a really good job. Now the script might not be as strong, but John C. McGinley, is that his name?
Yeah.
He is great in the film. I love him in the film. As the rest of the cast, like I said, those 4 girls, 4 women in that cast are really what hold that movie together. Outside, even with the script issues and some some character choices that I may or may not be feel like that they're the strongest, like Blair Underwood's character. But I really think that core group, which is any heist film, you have to be down with the crew and you have to be along for the ride with the crew.
Yeah.
To get, I think, the most out of that a heist film. And with this particular crew, like, you feel for every last one of them. Even Cleo's wild card character who has one of the most tragic endings.
Yeah, her last moments are really, and again, the way F. Gary Gray sets up that scene just really makes you connect with her character, even though she is the wild card of the group.
Yeah.
But in that moment, you just feel for her.
Yeah, and she sees that when she tells the girls get out of the car, she's going to sacrifice herself. You know that she tells them, like, you all got stuff to live for. And there's a tragedy in that for her as a black woman to feel like she's at a point in her life because of, society, because of choices she made, a combination of both, that feel like there's no future for me.
Yeah,
and
she has no out.
And that's the tragedy, not that they're getting caught by the police, but there's a person who feels like they have no future.
Yeah.
And especially a black woman. And that, for me, is what is the gut punch. And then the fact that she uses that as a reason to sacrifice herself for her friends. Like, it's really a powerful moment for me.
Yeah, it is. I love the progression of F. Gary Gray's career, being a video director and then going from Friday. Like, his first 3 films are such a progression as his career. Like, from Friday to Set It Off to The Negotiator. And then move into, like, The Italian Job, which is another heist film. I had that on my list. But yeah, his progression to where he is now, from doing Straight Out of Fast 8. We won't talk about that. But
another heist film.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Fast 5.
And 5. Yeah. You ain't got Fast 5 on your list.
Man, my relationship with Fast and Furious. We'll talk about that off air.
Dang. All right. So that's my number 3.
So my number 2,
number deuce.
Another film I love, 2010. Oh, same as Inception, The Town. Ben Affleck. I love The Town. Ben Affleck. This was his 3rd outing as a director. He's really coming to his own as a director. I'm a huge fan of Ben Affleck as an actor and as a director, and this film solidified that for me personally.
Yeah.
It's such a well-crafted story. And the way he tells the story is so well crafted. Going to your point, Brad, like with Out of Sight, like, I love these stories that deal with like romance and love stories, these ill-fated love stories about these 2 people on either different sides of the law or different sides of the tracks, and we get that a little bit with here with Ben Affleck's character and Rebecca Hall's character, and how he lies to her at first. But then that grows into a budding romance where he actually cares for her. But unfortunately, when she learns the truth, you really buy into that romance and you root for that romance to happen. I thought John Hamm was great as the detective that's chasing these guys. I thought Ben Affleck did a great job of casting the rest of the crew. Being set in Boston, this feels like these characters are from Boston. Jeremy Renner, I thought, was great in that role that he was cast in. The friendship that they have, Ben Affleck and Jeremy Renner, that back and forth friendship where you feel the loyalty there, but also the friction between the 2 of them. I love that one scene when he goes to him and he's like, we got to rough some people up. You can't ask me who it is or where we're going. Don't ask me anything about it. And he was like, whose car we taking?
I'm game.
I was like, it's like that's a rider. I know that's a rider that I do for you right there.
That's your rider.
So it's like, I don't know, man, but I love this film. I really love The Town.
It's my favorite Ben Affleck.
It's my favorite Ben Affleck film, hands down.
Granted, I enjoyed Gone Girl and Gone Baby Gone, but this one is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean Argo. But I like all his films. Live by Night didn't really live up to.
I see what you did there.
Damn, I know.
That
but
movie's garbage.
The only thing I don't like about The Town, and I've said this before, is I just don't like the ending. Like, I felt like,
as far as him getting away,
yeah, I felt that just felt too romanticized. Like, I understand.
I could see that. I didn't have a problem with it, but I could see that.
I need to watch it again. I haven't seen it since the theater.
Damn,
really?
I didn't particularly like it.
Damn, really? I think you might dig it. Yeah. Hawkeye is a beast in it.
Yeah, and this was during the period where I was like, oh, it's that guy from SWAT. Ugh.
Wow. That was your association with
that? Back then it was.
I agree.
It took a while for me to come around on Jeremy Renner.
Okay. Yeah. But you didn't like was it a particular reason?
I just never. I mean, I don't remember much about this movie other than
Blake Lively was good in it.
Oh yeah, Blake Lively. It's
John Hamm's in it, right?
Yeah, John Hamm was really good in it. But you're a fan of Ben Affleck as a director. Did you like?
I love Gone Baby Gone, and
damn. All right,
okay. That's my number 2.
Brad, you're number 2. I know what your number 2 is.
No, you don't.
Can I say it?
Sure.
Jackie Brown.
No.
What the?
But that's a great movie. It's a great movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Oh, that is a heist film. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's good.
What?
I mean, it's great. It's great.
My mind's blown all over the back of this green screen.
I don't know. When I was thinking of heists, it just didn't enter my brain. No, my number 2 is Dog Day Afternoon.
Yes,
Sidney
okay.
Lumet film. Attica.
Okay.
Al Pacino as Sonny as this. He really has no business walking into a bank with a rifle to take their money, but he does it out of love. He's taking that money so he can pay for his lover's sex change operation, and it's an incredibly human film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's similar to. I mean, it's an empathic movie, right? These are individuals that you do not and should not necessarily connect with, but through experiencing their life at its most chaotic, you understand where they're coming from. And he's so trapped, and you're trapped with him. And the way Sidney Lumet just puts you on his side through his story, you are rooting for him to succeed.
The desperation there.
The desperation of that movie.
Yeah.
And also, the reality of that film. I mean, it feels like, it certainly is a Pacino performance, but it's shot on location. It feels like you're looking at a moment in time.
Hold on. Brian, have you seen Dog Day Afternoon?
Not all the way through.
I was going to say, don't spoil it. That should be a good. That would be a great homework.
That's a great homework assignment. Yeah.
I think you really like.
I know about it, and I've seen bits and pieces, but I haven't seen the film all the way through.
This era of Pacino is like top notch, and this is absolutely
70s, right?
Yeah, 1972.
Early 70s.
Well, the event's 1972. I think the film was 75.
So this is pre-Godfather. Godfather was
Godfather 1. We have the internet here. Yeah. So Dog Day Afternoon was 1975. Godfather 1 was 1972. So it's a couple years after.
Post Godfather.
But the event it takes place in 1972.
Interesting. Okay.
It's I think that's probably we should probably put a pin in it because it's worth a
good discussion.
Good discussion.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
It seems. I was thinking of another film where you were saying like having empathy for characters like this, like a film like more recent film like John Q. With Denzel. I know. But you say no.
Don't say John Q next to Dog Day Afternoon.
But hear me out.
Yes,
what I'm saying is like somebody who's desperation, who wants to get something done for his son who is dying, and almost in the same vein, or they take cues from that.
Pun intended. But John Q definitely wants to be Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, well, that's what it made me think of.
It's. And again, it's like it's the bank tellers. They have a lot of great performances.
Okay.
John Cazale as his partner is amazing. Attica.
You know what would be good to see if we can get Gabe to program that for a Secret Society of Filmmasons screening.
I would love to see it on the big screen.
That'd be awesome to see on the big screen.
Like when people talk about like, the 70s was the greatest era in filmmaking, they're talking about movies like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good pick for Secret Society, and it'd be awesome to have Brian's first time full screening of it be on the big screen.
Cool.
All right. Good pick. Great pick, actually. My number 2.
Jackie Brown. Is it Jackie Brown?
No, it's probably a little more obvious that this. My number 2 is you don't really see the. You're watching the aftermath of the heist.
This
I
is
guess.
Reservoir Dogs.
You're watching the aftermath of the heist. You don't really see it take place. You don't see the planning of it. You just see, oh shit, the cops are coming or they're on our tail. And I haven't spoken about this movie in a while, so I'm about to. And it's Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh my god!
I knew it. I was about to say, is it Mad Max?
Yeah.
Fury Road.
Look,
I literally was about to say that.
They steal some women. It counts. There's a heist, right? Did she not steal women? And she's trying to get away.
It is a human heist.
All right, so that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna waste anyone else's time. You already know how I feel about the film. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. But if Heat didn't exist, this would be my number 1 heist film.
True.
Straight up, because it's Mad Max.
Yeah.
Now,
But, okay.
I know what you're gonna say, and we're gonna talk about that right now because
Heat.
everyone's number 1, Brian, Brad, Mouth Dork, Lisa, the whole world, whether you like it or not. Everyone, our number 1 fistful of heists is Michael Mann's grand opus,
Yep.
the beginning, the end, the alpha and omega of heist films, Heat.
I mean, it's an epic LA crime story. I mean, it really is.
And
I mean,
we've had a homework cast, or
Yeah, for
we've had a
Lisa.
homework cast
Yeah.
of this episode. Please go back and check that out. A really good discussion.
Honestly, this Fistful has been a series of homework casts, right? So
Yeah.
Set It Off, Out of Sight, Heat. Wasn't there one more? I feel like there was one
Hedwig and the Angry Itch.
more. That's Idge, sir.
Itch. This was a fistful of homework cast, actually. But yeah, there's so many think pieces written about this film, so many articles, so many lists that this film has popped up on, and rightfully so. When you talk about a heist film, I think what Brad maybe was about to get at is there are certain criteria, certain elements. Like you want to have the planning of the heist,
Right.
You want to focus on the execution of that planning. You want to see if things go according to plan. 9 times out of 10, things don't go according to plan unless you're Quick Change or Dark Knight, and that happens. So we get the suspense of, are these characters going to make it out? Are they going to get away? Prior to that happening in Heat, because it's such a sprawling crime epic, what Michael Mann does is, before he puts you in this room, in the bank with these gentlemen, in the getaway car with these gentlemen, he gives you an expanded story and background on these characters so that when this heist happens, you care whether or not, like in Set It Off, whether or not these people make it out alive. So when that action scene happens, when that heist happens and that getaway happens, and it's punctuated by that realistic gunfire, that surround sound of police converging in on this group, you are right there, not only viscerally but emotionally. And when Dennis Haysbert's character meets his end, even though it's such a quick, almost throwaway shot, in the grand scheme of that escape, it's the gut punch of that heist, the escape of that heist. You get, not only is it that centerpiece heist, but the opening of that film with the record truck when they do the armored car heist. Again, just showing the efficiency of De Niro and his group. You got Tom Sizemore's character. An outstanding, I would put this Val Kilmer right below
Doc Holliday.
Tombstone. That's Doc Holliday. Val Kilmer doesn't get no better than that. And that was dope that he just went to Tombstone in Arizona and just popped up and surprised all those people, like most recently. But yeah,
he's coming to the Arlington Draft House.
That's going to be awesome.
Oh, nice.
That's right. That's right.
His one-man Mark Twain show.
We talk about the cast in this film. On that homework episode, we just marveled at the cast that was assembled.
Amazing.
Does not stop.
It doesn't stop. Like Michael
Brad,
T. Williamson, Hank Azaria, Amy Brenneman,
Natalie Portman,
Ashley Judd,
Ted
Levine,
Danny Trejo,
Michael T. Williamson,
Natalie Portman,
Michael T. Williamson, yeah,
Tom Noonan.
Yep.
John Voight.
John Voight. Yeah, Ricky Harris.
William Fichtner.
Henry
Rollins. It just goes on. I mean, it's
Wes Studi.
Yeah.
Wes Studi. That cast is insane when you think about it.
It's absolutely insane. And what I love about this film is the fact that nobody's story is untold. Every story that they
everybody's in this movie.
Yeah, like everybody has a complete arc, a complete story. Whether they get killed or their story ends, but everything Michael Mann does with each character has a beginning, middle, and end to their stories. And
after our last homework cast episode, I dropped this into my top 100 favorite films of all time.
Oh, it's definitely in there.
Oh,
Definitely in there. And it was interesting, too, doing the homework, something that Lisa said that I never really looked at but makes complete sense is how these characters are dealing with their family life interrupting into their job. Whether you're the criminal, finding, like with Robert De Niro's character when he finds love with Amy Brenneman, or with Al Pacino and dealing with his wife and Natalie Portman's character. It's like these two men are really just about, you know, their jobs or their mission, and is them trying to balance that family life and not being able to kind of find that footing to control or to live both of these type of lives. And I thought that was an interesting aspect to look at dealing with these characters, because it's so true. It's so true with dealing with these characters, them trying to balance their home life with their careers.
I think one of the important things of a great heist film is not only, as I mentioned before, you being on board with the crew, but having that dynamic opposite in the law be someone who is, I think, intriguing and compelling. So certain films that involve a heist, you have a faceless badge, like in Dead Presidents. There's no one police officer who is trying to bring the crew down. It's just the long arm of the law. But in something like The Town, you have John Hamm's character who is fleshed out more than a faceless police officer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think in Heat, I don't want to say you have the pinnacle of the examination of that, but I kind of think you do, in that two parallels, the cop and the robber, their storylines are parallel, moving at this insane velocity that it's just an inevitable collision. And just as much as you just mentioned, Robert De Niro's character trying to manage not being alone with this life of crime that he's living, and Al Pacino's character trying to manage some semblance of a family with a dedication to stopping these criminals and failing, both sides failing miserably. I don't know that you have an examination of the polar opposites, but at the same time, the different sides of the same coin. I don't know that you have an examination of that character-wise like you do in Heat. And I think that's what, take out the incredible shootout, I think that's what makes that movie so strong. Everything centered around that. Yeah, and
I think they see that in each other, especially you see that in that dining scene, because they talk about their families. When Al Pacino says, he's on the downward spiral of his third marriage, and then Robert De Niro says, well, I have a woman too, and he's like, you prepared to walk out on this woman. So I think they see a little bit of each other, even though they're on different sides of the street or the curb, but they see a little bit of each other.
Oh yeah, because he say, well, you better find a different line of work. He's like, I don't know how to do anything else. And he's like, well, me neither.
Yeah, which goes to the last shot of the film. I love, like, that last scene gets me every time, when that Moby song kicks in and you see them standing holding hands with De Niro's shot, and he tells him, he's like, I told you I wasn't going back. And it's just a beautiful moment. And it's just, like I said, it's an epic cops and robbers story, done in the best way it could possibly be done. I mean, I don't think it ever be done better.
In juxtaposition with every other pick on your list, Brad, regarding Heat, do you have anything to add as why that would be your number one, or it should be?
I mean, the only thing I would add, besides everything we've said already, is just the technical craftsmanship of the heist itself,
Right.
and how Michael Mann executes the thrill of that scene and the terror of that scene. And as you were saying, there's an emotional impact. It is the centerpiece to the movie, but there's a ton of build up to that moment, and there's a ton of effect. Most movies would build to the heist, and then the bad guy would get shot at the end of the heist and roll credits.
Yeah.
Right.
This film has the space to tell its story properly.
Absolutely.
But again, that heist, like the way those actors hold their guns, the way those actors walk through those streets with those guns. This was like the first time that I became aware as a film fan, as an audience member, of actors going to camps to learn how to hold a weapon properly. And that training, that actors training, really pays off to the reality of the action.
Absolutely.
There's a tactical proficiency in this film. Being a prior service member, that I even before I seen this movie, obviously, but way before I joined the military, but even then recognizing that there's something different about this than when watching a John Woo film or watching
like Schwarzenegger,
or when watching Rambo. You just hold a weapon down by his side and just spray and pray. But seeing these guys be technically proficient in their movements, they're just so clean and precise. And then when I joined the military, being taught that myself and knowing what that does, to the point where we practice it so much in the military, it becomes what they call muscle memory, where your muscles just memorize doing these things, so you do it without thinking. And you can see that when Val Kilmer is shooting, and then when he reloads his M4 rifle, there are people in the service that I serve with that can't reload a M4 that fast without looking, without stopping to take a look at your mag pouch and making sure that mag is being held in the right way, and then tilting it as you put it into the mag well. Like, the way he does that, you can tell like he had a lot of training, and it just another level of detail. There's no the song that plays building up to the heist and during the heist is a musical piece called Force Marker. And once that heist is over and they try to make their escape, that song cuts off. There's no score. It's just audio of live gunfire used, recorded in real time. No ADR added for that. The sound effects of those rifles firing, bouncing off the buildings in that street was just used to such great and dramatic effect, coupled with, like you said, Brad, their movements, their crisp and clean movements, and seeing how their skill was able to have them overpower law enforcement to get them that far that they could get away, was just something I had never seen like in film before. Like, it's just incredible. It's just like it is an achievement in filmmaking, absolutely. And it only just goes to solidify that as being, the greatest heist film in cinema, I think. So yeah, that's going to do it for our Fistful. Let us know what your Fistful are, or at least your top 4, because we already know what your number 1 is. Hit us up on Twitter and Facebook at IdModcast. Turtle Dork is at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. He's also on at IdModcast on YouTube.
Yes.
Check out his reaction trailers, and our episodes can be listened to there as well. Wife Dork, she is at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. My man Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go see Logan Lucky. There is something else that comes out this weekend.
Man's Bodyguard, motherfucker.
What Brian just said to me, it hurt my feelings.
Look, man, if you don't want to hear Sam Jackson say motherfucker for an hour and a half, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I got to beep that out twice. All right, so thanks for giving me more work to do, motherfucker. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and until next time, motherfuckers.